Hey everyone, welcome back to Mindful English. I'm Sarah, and I'm sitting here with Liam.
Hey everyone, good to be here.
You know, Liam, we constantly hear this famous myth about language learning. People always say, a child's mind is like a sponge. They just absorb new languages effortlessly.
And because of that, adult learners carry so much unnecessary shame. I was talking to a student last week who was incredibly frustrated. He said, Liam, I study vocabulary for 2 hours every day, but when a native speaker talks to me, my brain just freezes. I can't think in English. I'm always desperately translating, and I feel like I'm failing.
Oh, the translation trap. You have all these words stored in your head, but the pathway to get them out is completely blocked.
But here is what every adult learner needs to hear today. You are not failing, and your brain is not broken. The amazing news is that neuroscience proves you can actually trick your adult brain into learning faster and thinking directly in English.
So today, we are going to share the exact habit-building strategies that will help you bypass that translation phase and finally start thinking in English.
Let's dive in.
Let's start with phase 1, the mindset shift. Because before you even open a grammar book, you have to examine the stories you are telling yourself. Your internal monologue actually dictates your brain chemistry. Imagine, you sit down to study and you look at a difficult grammar rule. If you immediately tell yourself, I've never been good at English, I'll never be able to understand this, so what is the point? You are operating with what psychologists call a fixed mindset.
Right. A fixed mindset is the incorrect, toxic belief that your intelligence and your talents are permanently locked in place. You think, I am who I am, and my brain cannot change.
And when you believe that, you constantly beat yourself up over every tiny mistake. You mentally attack yourself. And because the learning process feels so painful, you inevitably just give up when things get hard. Those negative beliefs completely hold you back from making real progress.
They do. They literally trigger stress hormones in your brain that block learning. But the opposite of that is a growth mindset. This is the scientifically proven belief that your abilities can absolutely be developed through hard work and good strategies.
So, if you catch yourself thinking, I can't figure out these verb tenses, you have to intentionally reframe that thought. You tell your brain, okay, this specific textbook isn't working for me. What other strategy can I try? That tiny shift lowers your stress and physically opens your brain up to receive new information.
It is a complete game changer.
So, once you have that growth mindset, you move to phase 2. Setting the target. Because you can't just wake up and say, my goal is to be fluent in English. That goal is massive and vague. Your brain has absolutely no idea what to do with the word fluent. You need to take that giant goal and break it down into microscopic, manageable pieces using the SMART goal framework.
Yes, the SMART framework is incredible for adult learners. And for anyone who hasn't heard of it, SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. If you apply those 5 rules to your English studies, it is the absolute secret to consistency. Let's actually dive into each of those letters so our listeners know exactly how to use them.
Let's do it. S stands for specific. Instead of saying, I want to improve my English, which means nothing to your brain, you give it a precise target. You say, I want to be able to start casual conversations with people I meet while traveling.
Perfect. Then we have M for measurable. This is where the neuroscience happens. You need to be able to track your progress. So you say, I will learn exactly 5 new travel phrases per week.
And here is the beautiful science behind measuring. Every time you learn one of those phrases, you take a pen and you physically tick off a box on your calendar. When you check that box, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine is the reward chemical. It makes you feel incredibly proud and satisfied, and it tricks your brain into wanting to study again tomorrow.
That dopamine hit is the ultimate secret weapon. Next is A for achievable. You have to be realistic. If you are a beginner, do not plan to watch a 2-hour English movie without subtitles every single day. If you do that, you completely set yourself up for failure. You will burn out in 3 days. You have to start small.
Exactly. Then we have R for relevant. Make sure your goal actually matters to your real life. If you love traveling, focus entirely on travel English. If you want a promotion, focus on business English. Don't waste your energy on things you don't care about.
And finally, T for time-bound. You must set a deadline. Otherwise, you will procrastinate forever. You have to say, I want to achieve this in 3 months.
So, putting it all together, a SMART goal looks like this. For the next 3 months, I will learn 5 new phrases per week so I can chat comfortably during my trip. Having that exact structure makes it so much easier to stick to your plan when your motivation is low.
That is a flawless goal. But Sarah, let's be completely honest with our listeners. What if someone sets that perfect SMART goal, but when they sit down at their desk at 8 p.m. after a long, exhausting day of work, they still feel completely overwhelmed? The resistance to studying is just too high.
Ah, the psychological friction. That is when you use our final strategy, Phase 3, the 2-minute rule. This brilliant concept comes from James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. If you want to start listening to English podcasts, but a 30-minute episode feels like a mountain you can't climb, you drastically lower the bar. You make a deal with your brain. You say, I am not going to study for an hour. I am only going to listen to this podcast for exactly 2 minutes.
2 minutes feels so ridiculously easy that your brain doesn't fight you on it. It's exactly like exercise. You don't walk into a gym and try to lift the heaviest weight in the room. You start with the lightest weight possible, and you slowly work your way up. You gradually increase the difficulty over time.
Your brain responds the exact same way. So you set a timer on your phone for 2 minutes. You listen to the English audio, and when the timer goes off, you immediately stop. And then, this is the most crucial part, you celebrate that tiny victory. You tell yourself, wow, I just successfully focused on English for 2 full minutes.
You trigger that dopamine again, and as you start to feel more comfortable, you add more time. 3 minutes, then 5 minutes. If you just keep at it every single day, the translation middleman in your head will slowly fade away. You will stop forcing the language, and it will finally start to feel like a natural reflex.
It really will. Consistency beats intensity every single time.
Now, to make sure our listeners can easily talk about their new habits and goals, let's do a quick review of the phrasal verbs we used today.
Let's start with Phase 1, mindset. I mentioned that if you have a fixed mindset, you constantly beat yourself up over mistakes.
Right. To beat yourself up means to unfairly blame or criticize yourself for something. And that negativity will completely hold you back, meaning it prevents you from making progress.
And if you let it hold you back, you will eventually give up, meaning you completely stop trying because a task feels too difficult.
Exactly. Which is why in Phase 2, we have to take our massive, intimidating goals and break them down. To break something down means to separate a large, complex problem into much smaller, manageable pieces.
And when you write those small goals on a list, you can tick them off one by one. To tick off means to put a check mark next to an item to show you have successfully finished it.
And the satisfaction of ticking things off helps you stick to your plan. To stick to something means to continue doing it consistently, without quitting or changing your mind.
Which brings us to Phase 3, the 2-minute rule. I mentioned that if you try to do too much on your very first day, you set yourself up for failure.
To set yourself up for something means to create conditions that will likely result in a specific outcome, usually a negative one. To avoid burning out, you have to start small and slowly work your way up.
To work your way up is such a great visual phrase. It means to gradually advance from a simple or easy level to a much more difficult one over time. And if you just keep at it, meaning you persist and continue doing a task even when it is hard, you will succeed.
And if you want more expressions for talking about goals, habits, and personal growth, check the pinned comment below.
They are so much more natural than using formal academic words. You stop translating and you start speaking like a native.
So here's our challenge. What is one specific English task you are going to apply the 2-minute rule to today?
Maybe it's listening to a podcast for 2 minutes. Maybe it's reading one paragraph out loud. Tell us in the comments.
And if this episode helped you see that your brain isn't broken, if it gave you the exact strategies to bypass that translation phase, share it with someone who's been struggling with their English studies.
Because the truth is, you don't need to be a 5-year-old child. You just need to understand how your adult brain works.
And go back and check out some of our previous episodes too. We cover all kinds of ways to build sustainable English learning habits.
Take care of yourselves, everyone. Be kind to your brains.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.